Welcome to the Fear and Greed Afternoon Report for Wednesday, the 13th of July, 2022. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Let's jump into it. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 rallied late in the day to finish up 0.2% to 6,622 points. Look, it started the day down and then it sort of trended higher, but really only got well into positive territory in the final hour or so. The technology, industrials and consumer discretionary sectors all did well, while energy and utilities fell back. BHP and Rio Tinto dropped about 1.4%, while Woodside Energy was off nearly 3%. Macquarie Group jumped nearly 4%. It was the best of the large caps. Buy now, pay later group Sezzle, which yesterday announced its merger with Zipco won't go ahead, lost another 16% today and is trading at a record low of 22 cents a share. Ouch. It's down about 60% in the past week. Story number 2. Fund manager Vanguard put out an interesting report on exchange-traded funds today. That's ETFs. Assets under management in the industry fell by almost 10% during the June quarter, from $132 billion to $119 billion. Now, that was pretty much thanks to market moves. Net inflows remained positive. Investors obviously still like ETFs, though not quite as much as previous quarters. Vanguard said that some thematic and exotic ETFs had fared significantly worse. That's really a warning saying you need to understand the underlying assets in these ETFs. Where there was a big jump was fixed income ETFs, reflecting rising interest rates. Inflows of fixed income ETFs were up 148% compared to the March quarter. Story number 3, Federal Health Minister Mark Butler today said millions of new COVID-19 infections are expected around Australia in the last 6 weeks of winter. He urged the community to wear masks and work from home where possible. Mr. Butler said there was little appetite for strict mandates and a common sense interpretation of advice from chief health officers was sufficient to limit transmission of the BA4 and BA5 variants. Based on official data, there are about 250 to 300,000 people currently infected, though the real number is thought to be, well, at least twice that. And staying on the same theme, Qantas will remove its requirement that international travellers be vaccinated against COVID-19 from next Monday. Follows the federal government's decision that new arrivals don't need to be inoculated. Story number 4, the boss of BlueScope Steel's Climate Change and Sustainability Division says there needs to be a reality check about green steel. The steel industry, along with cement makers and chemical industries, are among the biggest emitters of carbon. Steel making, in fact, accounts for about 7% of global carbon emissions. Green steel, whereby hydrogen rather than coal powers the steel making, is supposed to provide a way forward. But BlueScope's Greta Stevens says there's a long way to go before it can be commercially viable. Her company has set 2050 goals, but there's plenty of technology that still needs to be developed between now and then to decarbonise steel making. In fact, currently, there is no green steel being produced anywhere in the world, she said. Finally, story number 5, New Zealand Central Bank has lifted interest rates by 0.5 percentage point for the 3rd month in a row, taking the cash rate to 2.5%. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand has been among the most aggressive lifters of interest rates, and the board said it would continue to lift at pace until it was sure inflation had been contained. Of course, 2.5% is close to twice what the Australian cash rate is. Also, the Korean Central Bank lifted interest rates today as it battles with inflation that's running at a 23-year high. That's it for the afternoon report for Wednesday, the 13th of July, 2022. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.